Hello there, and welcome to this presentation that addresses a fundamental question for all logistics managers. How does one determine where the strengths and weaknesses are in the supply chain? And if identified, how is it to be remedied? Subsequently, in this short presentation, the strategic profit model, a commonly used methodology, will be described and justified as a methodology that can assist logistics managers in attaining maximum levels of efficiency and hence larger profit margins. The strategic profit model provides managers with the ability to properly analyze and interpret financial performance and return on equity, or return on net worth. Subsequently, this model demonstrates how return on net worth is essentially dependent on three variables: net profit, asset turnover, and financial leverage. The model utilizes a ratio analysis methodology through the use of two equations. Once the net profit margin is multiplied by the firm's asset turnover, which obtains the return on assets, this is then multiplied by the financial leverage to ultimately calculate the firm's return on net worth, which can then be compared relative to the ratios of competitors in similar industries of similar sizes, in order to establish how well a company utilizes its shareholder investment, thereby its efficiency. In the next segment, this graph can be used to not only identify the strengths and weaknesses a logistics manager may find in their firm's supply chain, but by identifying such variables, logistics managers can influence these variables to ultimately increase shareholder value and overall business profitability. Let's start with the net profit margin. The net profit margin is essentially a firm's operating efficiency, which thereby measures how successful a company is at cost control. Generally, as shown in this figure, the net profit margin primarily consists of sales and expenses. Therefore, in order to increase a firm's return on net worth, logistics managers should aim for increasing sales and reducing cost of goods sold to subsequently increase the gross margin and hence net profit. Additionally, total expenses, namely variable expenses, should also be decreased. Highlighting the degree of efficiency a business comprises of, the asset turnover ratio determines how effectively a company uses its assets to generate revenue. Now, as shown, asset turnover is made up of inventory and accounts receivable. However, if logistics managers wish to increase a firm's return on assets through increasing their asset turnover, this may negatively affect the firm's net profit margin. For example, decreasing inventory levels through just-in-time practices generally requires more sales to generate value in all procured stock, thereby resulting in more expenses to cater for this influx that may be detrimental to attaining ideal net profit. Alternatively, if one focused on decreasing accounts receivable, not allowing a more accessible credit policy may result in a loss of sales, thereby generating more inventory. Overall, regarding any aspect of the supply chain, logistics managers need to exhibit caution when proposing changes to asset turnover, as it may directly affect the firm's net profit margin and thus business desirability. Measured by the equity multiplier ratio, the last component, financial leverage, is the degree to which a company purchases assets through debt or equity. Now, one may wonder why any business would want debt. However, by being more leveraged, a firm's return on net worth is substantially increased from the stock volatility that follows, as shareholder return from such risk subsequently increases. However, if such debt is not successfully repaid, the firm is potentially subject to eventual losses. Ultimately, logistics managers need to discover an ideal medium of leverage necessary to maintain optimum levels of value for shareholders, but not at the cost of long-term business success. Hypothetically, this could be achieved by focusing on borrowing money to buy assets, for example, manufacturing equipment or distribution centers, with returns comparatively higher than the interest accrued from the corresponding debt. In conclusion, the application of the strategic profit model is undeniably beneficial to identify the strengths and weaknesses of their business, provided that they have the necessary degree of foresight of what may follow from implementing strategies. However, this model corresponds a word of caution. Despite the model inferring that each variable can be individually altered, in reality, most variables are dependent on one another.